Welcome, everybody. I'm so excited to pretend I can see you out there. Thank you, Charles. I am really excited to have this conversation this evening. Y'all know I would be the one that would be in the car saying, whoa! I don't know about you all, but I know I would. And I look forward to having this conversation to talk about what autonomous vehicles will mean for district residents. Now, I was asked to ask you all a question, so I just want you to shout since I can't see you. But how many of you all have actually had a chance to ride in an autonomous vehicle? If you have, just say woohoo or something. All right. We've got a fan club here.
Yes.
That's wonderful. Well, I'm so glad, again, that we've had a chance to. We're going to have about 20 minutes, and then some of you all will be able to ask your questions. Not long, because we don't have long this evening, but we would, if you've got some questions in mind, we're going to take some from the floor. I want to start with you, Anwar, and I know we had some prepared questions, but I want to just ask you this, because we talked about it downstairs. And, you talking about 8th Street, everything that the council member mentioned today about traffic in the city, you have seen it here on 8th Street.
That's correct.
And I'm just curious, because you are a pro-Waymo advocate. I won't say advocate, but supporter. And there are a lot of reasons why you could not be, but you are. Why?
For one, I think it would bring jobs to the city. I train during the summer anywhere between 80 to 100 summer youth. And we teach them artificial intelligence, motorsports. We teach them robotics. This year's robotics. And we think this have a connection to jobs. That I believe that if we train the kids right and Waymo have a opportunity, that it creates jobs for them on the ground level. You don't have to go to school, you have to go to college for this, and they pay very well. I started off as a bus cleaner at Metro many years ago, and I retired as a mechanic, supervisor. And did I go to school for it? I've never been in a school for diesel mechanic. And that provided an opportunity, and I think Waymo will provide the same type of opportunity. You go in at a low level, and you have job opportunities as a cleaner, and you can work your way up. And you also have job opportunities as a service provider, and many other technicians and many other opportunities. But you don't have to go to school for these things. You get training for it, on-the-job training, and guess what? As you grow, you get more money, you're able to take care of your families, you're able to pay the expenses, high expenses in Washington, D.C., and I think provide these opportunities.
Wonderful. I want to jump to you, Tiffany, because we also had a chance to talk a little bit. It was great to meet you. Tiffany's been in D.C. for 30 years, y'all, so...
I came when I was very, very young.
I said she could almost qualify for a native Washingtonian, but, native Washingtonians have our restrictions. But we certainly do love the fact that you have decided to make the District of Columbia your home. And, just like Anwar, what are some of the important considerations that you all put into play as it relates to autonomous vehicles in the District of Columbia?
Well, first, let me thank you for everything that you and your father have built with Washington Informer. I think it's an incredible legacy, and thank you for allowing us to be a part of this. I think it's important to kind of level set. One of the things we talk about is Waymo being the most trusted driver. I was excited to hear that there were so many people who had been in a Waymo. But on the other side of that, how many of you have been in an accident? How many people are driving DC streets and you see someone on their phone, or they're, angry or upset, or they may have been drinking coming from, one of the wonderful many establishments we have here in Washington, D.C. So it's really about making our roads safer. That's fundamentally let's level set. That's one of the most important things and what our mission is. And Waymo allows that to happen, for us to have safer technology, greater mobility. Our data shows over 220 million miles driven that we are 93% fewer serious crashes or worse in a Waymo than a human driver. And so how do we reconcile the fact that 30 to 40,000 people die a year in the United States because of traffic accidents? And we actually have the anecdote. We have something that would fix that. And it also adds so much when it comes to mobility. So when we think about Waymo here in the District of Columbia, we think about, one, it's our nation's capital, and we would love to be able to showcase that technology. But we also inherently want to make sure that our roads are safer. And that's what the Waymo driver and what Waymo would like to come to the district to do.
I want to go back to you, Anwar, because when you talked about, we're still talking about opportunities. We want to talk more about safety, but opportunities. And you talked about employment opportunities, but also the council member mentioned accessibility, with other vehicles that we can hire in the district. We've heard the stories about the taxi cab drivers that used to pass us all in the street all the time. But what about accessibility and, the economic opportunities? Do you see a future there?
Well, the economic opportunities where people have jobs and they can't get to work on time. Or people, if you live in Southeast, I'll give you a good example, and you work in Northwest or work on 8th Street, and you have to leave 5 o'clock in the morning or get to a place 5 o'clock in the morning or late at night if you leave in 8th Street late at night, and people may not want to come to the corner, because of what they think or the perception of what's going on in these neighborhoods. And you get another driver in another company, they opt out, or they're going to charge you a higher fee just because they can to a certain degree. We've seen this. And if you have an autonomous vehicle, guess what? You don't have to worry about a person showing up. You have a vehicle showing up. And I think that's huge. In 8th Street in the city, I think that's huge. So that gives you a chance to really service neighborhoods equitably versus other companies. I think so.
Is that true, Tiffany, though? Let's talk about that.
Yeah, I would add to that one, we have lots of options here in the District of Columbia, but I can say sometimes I always talk about my imaginary husband when I have a ride-hailing driver pick me up from my house because, I want to feel safe and I, feel as if I need to do that in order when I'm engaging with a driver. Waymo removes that as a part of the equation. It's a safe alternative for women who, whether there's anxiety or discomfort, when I'm having somebody pick me up at my house at 4:30 a.m., I don't necessarily want to, lots of questions about who I live with and what I'm doing. And so that's one of the most important things. If we look at our power users of Waymo, it is women who feel much safer in Waymo. When it comes to issues of equity, Waymo doesn't see color. It literally is an autonomous driving machine that will come to all wards. We have driven hundreds of thousands of miles here in the District of Columbia, every single ward. And so those issues of not being picked up in Ward 7 or Ward 8, that's not an issue with Waymo. And they will come pick you up. It doesn't matter what time. And if you think about workers, it's kind of like if you're doing shift work and you're getting off work like late at night, you want a safe option. And so Waymo provides that and adds to kind of the ecosystem here in the District of Columbia.
Well, that's good to know. There's no zip code discrimination happening with Waymo. The other part to this, and when it comes to safety, is as Councilmember Allen talked about, are these crazy intersections that we have, and these aggressive drivers, and all of that. How is Waymo sort of structured to make sure that it can safely maneuver?
Well, one of the things we have actually been able to drive 220 million miles autonomously, and that includes the hundreds of thousands of miles that we've driven in the District of Columbia. And I can't say that I've driven down every street in the District of Columbia. And so the great thing is that each vehicle learns from the other, and it's able to understand through simulation, but also through direct driving autonomously, kind of what those intersections. And since we are currently in 6 states and 11 cities, we've seen most terrain and challenges, but DC has unique challenges, and that's why we work closely with the community so that when we're engaging with these different intersections or spots, that we are getting feedback from our users on how to traverse those, how to engage those. And so as we continue to drive in the District of Columbia, we have the benefit of having driven all of those miles and getting those learnings. So there's not something that we've encountered in the district that we haven't seen elsewhere.
You know, I want to add to that. When I was at the facility, we had a chance to experience a Waymo, and then we had a chance not to experience it. And we found ourselves in an area where we end up in the wrong lane with a bunch of traffic coming to us. And fortunately, we were able to get back in the other lane, and we all laughed at ourselves, and we said, no, Waymo wouldn't do that. Waymo wouldn't do that because it's safer. And I think that was another good experience, because if it was another situation and we were in that lane and it was a rush hour, it could have been a hard accident and all of us could have been hurt. So that gave me more confidence in really saying, no, this is a good ride versus us being out here doing what we're doing. You know, so I think that's where society is going. And with autonomous driving, I think we should embrace it. You look at someone getting off of work or coming from a club, and let's say they had too much to drink or they're too tired. I have a son who got off of work late. He was in a serious accident, almost lost his life. But if it was a Waymo driver, if it was another situation and he wasn't driving his own vehicle, I think more people would not go through that and it would save their lives. You know, they wouldn't have to go through that. So I think the Waymo system is a very good system to give you an option.
One of the things that even folks said to us when we talked about having this event here at the Atlas is there's no parking. Where are you going to park, right? And that's a problem on H Street, period. Well, it's a problem a lot of places now, but on H Street. And so how do you think Waymo will benefit the businesses on this corridor?
Well, I think not only Waymo would benefit, I think we would benefit if we can partner with Waymo and do some type of promotion and partnerships to rule people in and out of the corridor. I think that gives us an opportunity versus if you had another type of company where you have individual drivers. I don't think they will have that opportunity because they working off of another salary cap. And I think with Waymo, you can look at that, and I think you have an opportunity to partner with them and do something different. That's a conversation I think that could be had.
And I think curb management system, I think that's kind of the next frontier, and we want to work with local partners to do that. The benefit of Waymo is that we're all we are centrally kind of dispatched, and so we can manage kind of our fleet size kind of to go up and down based on traffic. I know that was something that the council member mentioned, so that we would be able to kind of manage up and down depending on kind of the need and the interest.
Tiffany, who would be your customers?
Me. I found, we've done surveys of riders. Again, I said our power users are women and people of color. I think people who are interested in getting from point A to point B, and they want as many options as possible. It's someone, again, like we mentioned, coming off shift work that doesn't want to, have to engage with someone. It's someone who just wants some quiet on the way home. They don't necessarily want to have to engage with someone. But I think it's that person getting off the metro that wants to get that last mile and get home. I think there's so many opportunities. A lot of the support that we've gotten has been from the disability and accessibility community on how we create more agency and more freedom of movement and mobility for those who may have low vision, may be blind. But we also understand that we want to make sure that, with Waymo, we can provide those greater choices for mobility in the district.
We have, we're fortunate in DC because we have such a diverse population here, but we've got a lot of seniors too. Have you determined whether, seniors themselves would say yes or no? I've talked to a couple who said absolutely not, and then came back and said, but I would try it. But I'm just curious if when you talk about the population, if that's a group that you think Waymo would also have as a customer.
Definitely, and I think we're actually in the district working with organizations that are focused on seniors and mobility. I'm trying to think, would my mother have taken Waymo? She probably would say no, never. But she actually was an early adopter of technology. So I would like to think that she would kind of jump at the opportunity.
I definitely would.
But again, I mean, as we continue to age in place, as we continue to have caring for parents and being in the same households, the ability to have that type of mobility for seniors where you don't have to wait for, your child or something to take you someplace. It just opens up so much to kind of live life and continue to have some longevity and agency.
Well, I was saying that because my mother was one of those who said no, but I'd try it. So, and she probably, because she gets around the city. My husband and sons know that she traverses the city a lot of different ways, and I could see her telling me, what's taking you so long? Get rid of that car. But talk about a little bit about how Waymo is investing in the District of Columbia.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that distinguishes Waymo from kind of traditional ride-hailing services. I mean, those are, independent contractors. When Waymo comes to a city, we invest tens of billions of dollars. We hire locally. There's a lot of kind of focus on there not being a driver and like what that means to kind of the job ecosystem. But there's so many jobs that are part of our depot: electricians, mechanics, technicians, so fleet operators. And so we know, and those folks it's not like, most tech companies where it's centralized at their headquarters. These are jobs that are local. Those would be individuals from the District of Columbia and surrounding areas that would have those jobs. And those are jobs with benefits. I mean, we found in our partnership with Lyft in Nashville that we, through a partner, FlexDrive, that a lot of former Lyft drivers actually changed to become part of kind of our fleet operations. And those are jobs, careers with benefits. So we've seen kind of the ability to shift like drivers to other roles that may be a better fit for their lifestyle. And so that's what we're looking forward to doing in the District of Columbia.
Is there an estimate of if and when this legislation passes and Waymo actually is in Washington, D.C., is there an estimate of how many vehicles will be on our streets?
Well, I think that's an open question. I mean, at first, I'd like to thank the council member for the legislation and bringing this issue to the forefront because it's important. Again, this is happening. This is everyday life in 11 cities in the United States, and we very much want to make it a reality here in the district. I think it's an open question on how many vehicles, and that the great thing about being centrally dispatched is that we can upsize or downsize depending on the need, and they're not just cars on the road. I think there was a comment earlier about kind of just idling, looking for rides. You wouldn't have those issues with Waymo. So again, we would love to serve the District of Columbia, and I think it would be additive to the current kind of ecosystem.
I think it's not about how many vehicles on the street. I think it's more about how many opportunities it creates, and I think it'll create tremendous number of opportunities.
But so Anwar, we talked a little bit about how it will benefit the businesses on 8th Street. Have you had conversations with some of the business owners? I mean, they know you they probably have your phone number on speed dial. Are they talking about Waymo themselves? Or autonomous vehicles? And
the ones I have, and they talking about 8th Street being the experience. And I think Waymo will help bring about that experience. We want 8th Street to be that neighborhood, that quarter of various experiences. And I think Waymo will help offer that.
Yeah, okay. So I've run out of questions on my list, so I am going to open this up to the audience as well if there's anybody out there that have questions. But you say you can't see? Oh, there we are. There are lights. Hey, everybody. Okay. I see a couple of hands. Yeah, help me out with some questions. We would certainly like to hear.
Oh, hello?
Okay. Oh, I thought she had a mic.
Hi.
Hi, where are you?
Over here.
There you are. Okay.
Hi. Thank you so much for this opportunity to hear more about Waymo.
You mind introducing yourself and let
sure.
us know if you're a district resident or not?
Hi, my name is Yetunde Okeshola. I am a district resident. I live in Ward 8, so definitely interested in accessible transportation. Does the conversation about Waymo in DC, does that by default include like Maryland and Virginia? I mean, if you are traveling to work in a different city or state, how does that impact the ability for Waymo to really take off in the district?
Well, we look forward to serving Virginia and Maryland as well, but currently the way it works is that it would be geofenced for the District of Columbia, but we are actively engaged in conversations with Virginia and Maryland. We would love to serve the entire DMV.
So someone asked me this question before. If I'm in a club on 8th Street and it's late and I've had a couple of whatevers, these Waymo cocktails, but I live in Prince George's County, it won't take me home.
Not currently, but we look forward to the day that it will.
Okay, all right, that answers that question. Any others? I see a couple of hands. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Danica Gonsalves. I'm with Paralyzed Veterans of America. We're headquartered here in the district. We thank Waymo for their contribution and commitment to a safe and accessible future, but without wheelchair accessible Waymos, what is Waymo currently doing and will commit to doing to serve the district's residents who use wheelchairs and scooters?
Thank you for the question, and we appreciate the opportunity to serve. Currently, as it stands, we do have kind of a dispatch for those individuals who need wheelchair access, as the car is currently not built for that. We actually don't build the vehicle. We put the technology on the vehicle, but we continue to work to figure out how can we create avenues and opportunities for those that need wheelchair access.
So how would one hail a Waymo? How does that happen?
Through the Waymo app. Everyone can download it, and you can download it also to be alerted when it's available in your city. But currently in 9 of our markets, you would use the Waymo app. And it looks just like a traditional ride-hailing app where you would put in your location and your destination.
Yes.
Thank you all for the panel. My name is Cherise Crawford, and a lot of my work has been centered around caregiving, whereas we have been the actual crisis vehicle. We have been the routine for the wheelchairs. And so what I found in the gaps was that there was policy needed to change so that anyone in the room could have a temporary emergency designation status based on the work the crisis that they may be in. Would Waymo be a partner in maybe current policy objectives around transportation that needs to happen in order to fit into the infrastructure?
If I hear your question correctly, I think we are currently working with a number of organizations in the district, and we would love to partner with organizations where, caregiving is central and making sure that those needs are fulfilled. But I know that our team works closely with organizations here in the district, and we'd love to expand that.
Thank you for the answer.
That sounds like a conversation too for, if I heard it correctly, for the council members. So when he has his hearing on July 13th, maybe that can be something that's included. Who's next? Who has the mic?
I have the mic.
Okay.
My name is Cheryl Adams. I'm a pedestrian advocate, pedestrian safety advocate. And my question has to deal with emergency interference. Councilmember Allen indicated that he sat in an AV that was waiting for the proper time to move. What would happen if this situation involved a first responder needing to navigate the situation? How would Waymo handle that situation if that first responder was sitting behind them? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. We are fortunate that Waymo has a law enforcement council led by a first responder, and we've actually had the opportunity to train police departments in all of the areas in which we serve, and we provide instructions on how to engage with the vehicle. And actually, if you look on a Waymo, there's a QR code specifically for law enforcement and first responders to help them navigate moving the vehicle if need be.
Hi, good evening. My name is Melissa Daly. I am a DC resident and I have no car, so Waymo would be my friend. But I do have a infrastructure technology question. When Waymo comes to the district, will you have to create another data center? And I'm not saying that to be confrontational. I am actually for data centers, right? I know everybody just looked at me like, "What is this?" So we can talk about that later. But the reason why I'm asking that is because of the
data center. It does involve a local depot that would hire DC residents.
Great.
Hello, my name is Juliette Beverly. I'm a member of the Washington Association of Black Journalists and senior editor for brainfacts.org, published in Washington, D.C. My question is regarding what is determining how Waymo's algorithm works. We talked a little bit about, being able to be picked up wherever in places where taxi cabs used to not pick folks up. But what is determining the success of Waymo not having human bias in the future?
Before you answer, I think the council member is leaving. I just want to say, Councilmember Allen, thank you. Were you trying to sneak out the door? Well, we just wanted to say thank you and acknowledge, the fact that you were here with us. Thank you so very much. Don't hold that against me for calling you out like that.
Well, thank you for the question. I think your question focused on ensuring that there was no bias in the use of algorithms. I think the value of the Waymo driver is that there is not a human with their own biases that are deciding who to pick up or if they should pick them up or if it's a good part of the town or a bad part of town. Waymo doesn't do that. It doesn't kind of have those inherent biases. And so we've found that actually it creates greater equity and opportunities, particularly if you look in the District of Columbia, like the best, you can get the quickest vehicle the closer you are to a depot. And whereas we are looking at where to put our investments, we're looking at underserved wards to make sure that, one, we're providing jobs, but also the closer you are to those depots, the greater the opportunity is to kind of get a Waymo at a quicker pickup time. But that's something that we are actually always cognizant of because we want to make sure that, again, we are increasing mobility options in the district and for all people. So that's something that's core to what we believe.
Thank you. Should I stand up? Hi, my name is Phil Lewis, president of the Washington Association of Black Journalists and deputy editor over at HuffPost. I had a question. Oh, thanks. I had a question about Waymo in particular. I've ridden in Waymos in Los Angeles and Arizona. I felt safe, but I know that there's still some issues when it comes to like heavy rain, weather. You never know what passengers are doing. So my question is, who is liable in situations for like accidents, things like that? Because I know Waymo is pretty safe, but you can't quite always predict everything that happens. So who's liable in certain situations if there is an accident? Thank you.
Well, we found the most accidents that Waymos have gotten in, they've been actually hit, as they have not been the aggressor. But the passenger would not be liable, I think is probably your question. It is a fully autonomous vehicle, so the Waymo driver is in control.
On that note, if something happens with a Waymo vehicle and it gets stalled or just inoperable, how long do you think it would take for someone to come get that car in?
Well, we work closely, obviously, if there was a Waymo that needed to be disengaged. Again, we work with first responders, we work with law enforcement, depending on the situation, but we also have technicians, like if there was a flat tire or something. Again, it is still a vehicle, and so you have the traditional things that happen with vehicles, but we work very closely with our depots to ensure that the Waymos are taken care of. And they go back to the depot at night and go to sleep and wake up.
All right.
Hi, my name is Cheryl Pons. The name of my company is Dye Technologies Corporation. We're in the business of electric vehicle charging infrastructure. And so I would like to expand the conversation around opportunity and understand who are you what are your intentions as far as partnering and building your infrastructure and helping you build your depots? How are you looking for companies that you're going to work with? Also, the trade professionals or the general contractors that are going to help fit out your depots. And have you developed a process already in other cities that's working, or are you going to develop something unique for the district?
Well, I think those conversations are ongoing and happening. And again, the benefit of having tested in DC since 2024, we've been able to develop and meet community partners. And so we'd love to get your information to kind of understand how you play in the EV ecosystem, charging ecosystem, because all of our vehicles are EVs. So that's a necessary, critical part of our infrastructure.
I need a time check. Can someone tell me? Okay, because I thought, we won't have enough time to take but about 4 questions, but we got plenty of time. So who's next?
I think it's me. Hi.
All right.
Right here. Grant Hines, I'm a WABJ member. As far as competition, you mentioned features like women feeling safe and if somebody wants to get in a ride and just have a quiet ride. Uber has all those features. They're running a big campaign around women drivers. They have a feature where you can choose for the driver to not talk to you. If an Uber's cheaper, if you're comparing prices, trying to get a ride and an Uber's cheaper, why should the person take a Waymo and not an Uber?
Well, I think it's about providing choice. I think I have that selected on my ride-hailing profile, not to talk. That is not necessarily adhered to. But again, I can tell you as a woman, like feeling safer, I like the ability to have other options. And again, I think we want to be additive to the ecosystem when it comes to ride hailing. And ultimately consumers will decide kind of what their choices are and what they prefer to take.
All right, I think we'll take one more. There you go.
Hello, I'm Tamika Cody. I'm a member of WABJ. I'm a multimedia journalist. I'm freelancing, and I write about food and food policy on my Substack, The Journalist Who Cooks. Stemming off of Uber, I'm curious about the Uber Eats and the Door Dashers. You all talked about there is, those drivers, they can go into Waymo, with new careers. But what about those people who enjoy door dashing or Uber Eats? Does Waymo have like an agreement with Uber Eats and DoorDash in delivering food and groceries, et cetera? How will that be effective?
I think our current business model, as we look in the District of Columbia, is focused on ride hailing, but there could be lots of opportunities within that. And I love DoorDash as well. So again, it's not an idea that we take all the DoorDash drivers and convert them, but it is about creating more opportunities. And so ultimately, I think the pie gets bigger and we can have all of those things.
I'm sure some of you all have seen, I saw it for the first time not too long ago on Howard's campus, or around, actually I was on Georgia Avenue, and saw one of those little, I call it a little box, riding up the street, I guess about to deliver food to somebody. I was like, okay, I guess we'll be seeing those in our neighborhood sometime soon. Any other question? One more, we'll take one more.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, you got the one more.
Hi.
Okay, all right. So
Good evening. My name is Bianca, and I'm more so a concerned potential user. I did read an article a few weeks ago that the individuals operating the autonomous Waymo weren't even located in our country. They were from India or wherever country that they had indicated. And how are we ensuring, if that is true, we're keeping the PII of all the drivers and everyone involved confidential and safe in this immersive time that we're in with AI?
Thank you for the question. I think what you might be referring to is the remote assistance. And so that's kind of like if you leave a wallet or something, like if the Waymo is like not arriving at the destination and you need to call for assistance. We have remote assistance operators across the United States and also globally. But those are also always for kind of those lower level needs. It's nothing that deals with safety information or anything like that. So anything when it comes to the technology of the vehicle and how the vehicle operates, that is the Waymo driver. I know some other companies have remote operators that can actually take control of the vehicle. That does not happen with Waymo. But in instances where like you're calling, like it's more like customer service.
All right, last question right there. Sound like the Baptist preacher. We're going to take one more.
Last question this time. Hi, my name is Jimmy Williams, and I'm president and CEO of the Washington Literacy Center. Hi, Tiffany. Hi, Jimmy. So, question is, I work with people who are low literacy. High number of them live in wards 5, 6, 7, and 8. And so you're right, they're marginalized when it comes to transportation. But my question is, a lot of them are low literacy. So the biggest problem we have is a lot of people, when it comes to the apps, they struggle to navigate the apps. They heavily rely on rideshare. So I'm hoping, and my question is, what are you doing about those people who have those type of disabilities in addition to visual, where they're low literacy? And then second is also the impact on jobs.
Excellent. And Jimmy, thank you for the work that you are doing with the Washington Literacy Center. And as we think about kind of those populations, I think we will want to partner with organizations to help them understand how to use the app, kind of any opportunity that we can to make sure that people understand how to use it. Whether it's a literacy issue or whether it's low vision, we would definitely want to make sure that we're partnering with organizations to provide that kind of guidance. When it comes to jobs, again, a lot of focus is on the vehicle not having a driver, but it doesn't appreciate the entire kind of ecosystem of fleet operations that are local jobs, that are jobs with benefits that we bring to every community that we serve. And then the millions, tens of millions of dollars that we also invest in the cities in which we operate. So we look forward to bringing those jobs to the District of Columbia. And again, to Anwar's point, these are jobs that, you know, you can continue to build and go up on the rung of the economic ladder. You don't need a college education. In some instances, it can be apprenticeships, but it's opportunities for mechanics, electricians, all building trades, all of those jobs that are central for our fleet operations locally in the district.
Well, thank you all for your questions. We're going to wrap it up now. Tiffany, I'm going to start with you if you have any closing remarks.
I would say thank you for the opportunity, and we are hopeful that the District of Columbia becomes the first international capital to have Waymo, but more importantly, that we serve the residents of the District of Columbia from Ward 1 to Ward 8.
Anwar?
For me, it's not about moving vehicles, it's more about moving communities forward. So that's what I think we need most of all. How can we use this Waymo as moving as a mechanism to move our communities forward?
All right, if you all join me in thanking our panelists, I appreciate that.